Okay, so picture this. It's 1901, the dawn of a new century, and the White House is hosting a dinner guest. Well, unlike any before, it's Booker T. Washington, a prominent black educator, and his presence at the president's table, it sparks outrage and even death threats across the nation. That single meal, shared with President Teddy Roosevelt, it really encapsulates the deep racial divides and tensions of the era we're diving into today.
Yeah, it's such a powerful symbol, isn't it? I mean, the seemingly simple act of dining together ignited a firestorm of controversy. It really revealed just how volatile the issue of race was in America at the time.
Exactly, and it's against this backdrop that
Yeah.
we'll explore the contrasting lives
Yeah.
and philosophies of two towering figures of the progressive era, Booker T. Washington and W.E.B. Du Bois. Both men were brilliant leaders,
That's
deeply
right.
committed to the advancement of black Americans, but their approaches differed dramatically. They grappled with the question that plagued a nation, struggling to reconcile its ideals with its realities. How should black citizens navigate the deeply unjust system of Jim Crow segregation?
And their answers to that question, their visions for the future, they couldn't have been more different. You had Washington, born into slavery, and later a champion of vocational training. He believed in demonstrating black worth through hard work and economic progress. And then you had Du Bois, a Harvard-educated scholar who fiercely advocated for full civil rights and challenged racial injustice head-on.
It's a story of two remarkable journeys. Let's start with Washington's path. Born in 1856 on a Virginia plantation, he spent his early years experiencing the brutal reality of slavery. Can you imagine the impact of witnessing emancipation at just 9 years old, the sheer joy, the newfound hope, but also the daunting uncertainty of a future in a society still deeply divided?
It's incredible. It's a testament to his resilience that this young boy, denied even the most basic freedoms, would rise to become one of the most influential figures of his time. His experiences fueled a deep belief in the transformative power of education and self-reliance. He worked tirelessly to lift himself and his people out of the shadow of slavery.
After relocating to West Virginia with his family, he took on grueling jobs, but never lost sight of his yearning for knowledge. He taught himself to read, eventually attending the Hampton Institute, a school that emphasized practical skills and industrial education. This experience would profoundly shape his own approach to education.
It is fascinating how his early life really informed his philosophy. He believed that for Black Americans to succeed in a society dominated by white supremacy, they needed to prove their worth through tangible contributions, through skills that would make them valuable members of the workforce.
And this belief led him to establish the Tuskegee Institute in Alabama. It's an incredible story of transforming a dilapidated shanty into a thriving center of learning. Under his leadership, Tuskegee provided vocational training and instilled values of hard work, discipline, and economic independence. It became a model for black education in the South. And beyond,
And it's important to remember the context here. Jim Crow laws were tightening their grip across the South, disenfranchising black citizens, and enforcing segregation in every aspect of life. For Washington, economic progress wasn't simply a matter of financial success. It was a strategic means of gaining leverage in a society that denied black people basic rights.
and this pragmatic approach was at the heart of his controversial Atlanta Compromise speech, delivered in 1895 at the Cotton States and International Exposition. The speech catapulted into national fame, but also sparked fierce debate within the black community.
And here's where the fault lines of the debate really begin to emerge. In his speech, Washington called for racial cooperation, but within separate spheres of influence, he urged black people to focus on practical skills, to show their value through economic contributions, and to temporarily accept social segregation while working towards equality.
Some saw it as a brilliant strategy for navigating a hostile environment, a necessary compromise in the face of overwhelming obstacles. Others, however, viewed it as a capitulation to white supremacy and acceptance of second-class citizenship. And it's this debate that would set the stage for the entrance of W.E.B. Du Bois, a man with a starkly different vision for the future of black America.
You know Du Bois' background. It stands in such stark contrast to Washington's. Born free in Massachusetts in 1868, he experienced a level of integration that was unimaginable in the Jim Crow South. Yet he still encountered the sting of racism, those subtle but persistent reminders that he wasn't considered an equal in the eyes of white society.
And that experience, that awareness of racism's pervasiveness, even in the so-called free North, it shaped his worldview. Just as profoundly as Washington's experiences had shaped his, he went on to achieve a groundbreaking feat, earning a PhD from Harvard University, becoming the first black person to do so. It was a testament to his intellect and drive, but also a symbol of his determination to challenge the limitations placed upon Black Americans.
But his academic achievements, they didn't shield him from the harsh realities of racial injustice. Witnessing the brutal lynching of Sam House, a Black man falsely accused of murder, left an indelible mark on his soul. This horrific spectacle of racial violence, it solidified his belief that accommodation wouldn't bring about true equality.
And then came a deeply personal tragedy, the death of his infant son, a loss he attributed, at least in part, to the inadequate health care available to Black families. In a segregated society, these experiences fueled his passionate advocacy for full civil rights, for dismantling the very system that perpetuated such injustices.
Right, and his landmark book, The Souls of Black Folk, published in 1903, became a cornerstone of the burgeoning civil rights movement. It's in this work that he directly critiques Washington's approach, coining the term Atlanta Compromise and arguing that it amounted to accepting a permanently inferior status for Black Americans.
He countered Washington's emphasis on vocational training with a call for liberal arts education, for cultivating critical thinking and leadership skills that would empower Black citizens to challenge the status quo. He believed in nurturing what he called a talented tenth, a Black elite who would lead the struggle for equality.
And this clash of philosophies, this wasn't just an abstract debate, it played out in real-world events and sparked tensions within the Black community itself. I mean, the Boston riot of 1903, where Washington was heckled, and chaos erupted during his speech. It highlights the growing rift between those who supported his approach and those who advocated for more direct action.
It's a stark reminder that even within a community, united by a common goal, there can be deep disagreements of the best path to achieve that goal. And then came a series of events that further challenged Washington's strategy of accommodation and highlighted the limitations of working within a system designed to maintain white supremacy.
The Brownsville Affair in 1906 proved to be a pivotal moment. Black soldiers stationed in Texas were accused of involvement in a shooting, and despite a lack of evidence, they were dishonorably discharged. Washington's behind-the-scenes efforts to secure their reinstatement were seen by many as inadequate, even as a betrayal of their trust.
It fueled a growing sense that working within the system, appealing to the conscience of white leaders, wouldn't bring about the justice Black Americans deserved. And this sentiment was further amplified by the horrific events of the Atlanta race riot later that same year.
This horrific event, where white mobs rampaged through Black neighborhoods, killing and injuring countless innocent people, it shattered the notion that economic progress alone could guarantee safety and equality. It exposed the raw, brutal face of white supremacy and the vulnerability of Black communities, even those who had achieved a measure of economic success.
It's a tragic reminder that progress can be fragile, that the deep-seated prejudices lurking beneath the surface of society can erupt into violence, shattering lives and communities. And it pushed Du Bois and other activists to redouble their efforts, to challenge this system directly, to demand full equality, and nothing less.
And out of the ashes of the Atlanta race riot rose a renewed commitment to direct action and systemic change. Du Bois, along with other Black intellectuals and activists, they formed the Niagara Movement in 1905. It was a call to arms, rejecting Washington's accommodationist approach and demanding full civil rights, equal access to education, and an end to disenfranchisement.
This movement, though short-lived, laid the groundwork for the creation of a truly impactful organization, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, or NAACP, founded just a few years later in 1909. Do you see that ripple effect? From the dinner at the White House, to the Atlanta Compromise, to this formal organization dedicated to fighting for equality.
Absolutely, and the NAACP's influence would be profound. It combined legal challenges, political activism, and public awareness campaigns to chip away at the edifice of Jim Crow. It represented a shift toward a more confrontational approach, a recognition that systemic change wouldn't come solely through economic progress or appeals to goodwill.
It's fascinating to consider how both Washington and Du Bois, despite their divergent paths, contributed to the long and arduous fight for racial justice. Washington's emphasis on self-reliance and economic empowerment, it laid a foundation for Black entrepreneurship and community development, which continue to this day.
And Du Bois' legacy is woven into the fabric of the modern civil rights movement. His unwavering advocacy for full equality, his insistence on dismantling systemic racism, and his vision of a society where the color line no longer defines one's opportunity. They continue to inspire activists and reformers today.
It's almost as if their contrasting approaches represent two sides of the same coin, both essential for achieving lasting progress. Economic empowerment provides a vital foundation, but it's not enough without the relentless pursuit of full equality and the dismantling of discriminatory barriers.
Precisely. Their legacies are intertwined, even though they often found themselves on opposite sides of the debate. Their lives and work underscore the complexity of social change, the need for a multifaceted approach that combines economic advancement, political activism, and a shift in societal attitudes.
Sadly, Washington didn't live to witness the full impact of the movements he helped inspire. He died in 1915, leaving behind the enduring legacy of the Tuskegee Institute, a testament to his belief in the transformative power of education and self-reliance.
Du Bois, on the other hand, lived for decades after Washington's passing. He saw the seeds of both their work take root and blossom, even if the fruits of their labor wouldn't be fully realized in his lifetime. The Tuskegee Institute flourished, producing generations of Black professionals and leaders, while the NAACP became a powerful force for change, spearheading legal battles that would eventually lead to the dismantling of segregation.
It speaks to the enduring power of their ideas, the profound impact they had on shaping the conversation around race and equality in America. But their debate continues to resonate today. As we grapple with the ongoing challenges of racial injustice, their contrasting approaches offer valuable insights. Do we prioritize economic empowerment as a pathway to equality, or do we focus on direct confrontation with systemic injustice?
Do we work within existing systems to achieve incremental change, or do we challenge the very foundations of those systems? These are questions that every generation must grapple with, and there are no easy answers. What's fascinating is that both Washington and Du Bois were ultimately striving for the same goal: a just and equitable society where Black Americans could thrive.
And their lives offer powerful lessons for us today. As we navigate the complexities of social change, they remind us that progress requires both patience and persistence, a willingness to challenge the status quo, and an unwavering commitment to uplifting those who have been marginalized. They also highlight the importance of diverse perspectives within social movements, recognizing that there's no one-size-fits-all solution.
What stands out to me is their unwavering dedication to Black progress, their refusal to accept the status quo, and their courage in challenging conventional thinking. They dared to imagine a different future, a future where the color line, as Du Bois so eloquently put it, is no longer a defining characteristic of the American experience.
And that's a powerful reminder. That change is possible, even in the face of seemingly insurmountable obstacles. But it requires courage, vision, and a relentless pursuit of justice, just as Washington and Du Bois demonstrated throughout their remarkable lives.
This deep dive into their lives and philosophies leaves us with a lingering question. How do we build upon their legacies to address the persistent challenges of racial inequality that continue to plague our society? How do we create a future where everyone has the opportunity to reach their full potential, regardless of the color of their skin?
It's a question that demands our attention, our critical thinking, and our commitment to building a more just and equitable world. And perhaps that's the most important takeaway from this exploration, the recognition that the fight for social justice is a marathon, not a sprint. It requires ongoing dialogue, reflection, and action from all of us.
Indeed. It's a journey that we must all embark on together, drawing inspiration from the courage and vision of those who came before us. And for those listening, we encourage you to continue exploring these themes, to delve deeper into the history of racial justice movements, and to consider how you can contribute to creating a more equitable future for all.